Manchester United are on the verge of completing a £69 million deal for Frenkie De Jong. Breakthrough negotiations over the course of this weekend have seen Manchester United finalise the deal at nearly 20 million euros less than the original asking price from Barcelona. The player will come in on a salary somewhere in the region of £300,000 a week. Manchester United matching what he is currently earning at Barcelona. We're going to delve into that on Straight Facts this evening, plus talk about Arsenal winning the Raphinha race. Arsenal have also completed the signing officially this evening of Gabriel Jesus as well. We're talking Declan Rice and much, much more live on the Football Terrace this evening. But Manchester United, £69 million deal for Frenkie De Jong is going to happen. It would take an absolute miracle for Manchester United now to lose out on this deal, for this deal not to complete from this position. Man United have been working hard. They've been working diligently to be able to get this deal done, to not pay over the odds, to not be striped up for an extra 20 million euros, to leave them a little bit more leeway when looking at other transfer targets. I do want your thoughts and I want your feelings. Liaz will be with us very, very soon. He's on his way. He will be on the stream. Don't you worry about that. But smash that like button right now for us, please. Subscribe to the Football Terrace. But Frenkie De Jong will be a Manchester United player. And you can take that. You actually can take that to the bank. What an afternoon it has been. What a weekend it's been in the transfer window so far. De Jong to Man United. Arsenal making great leeway in both the Lisandro Martinez deal and Raphinha. Chelsea getting their ducks in a row now with de Ligt, Sterling moving itself forward. Declan Rice, which we're going to get onto that little bit later. The business is really starting to mount for the Premier League sides now. It's setting up for what's going to be an absolutely astronomical season. It truly is. Adrian here says, getting Sterling equals like getting a car without petrol, pointless without a DM, disgraceful window for Chelsea. Bro, it's not the end of your window yet. The window is not done. Calm down and relax. It will be okay. It really will be okay. He's not muted anymore. I wasn't muted at any point. Sometimes at the end of the video, it kind of goes a bit weird in terms of that. But you guys could hear me, right? I'm not sure if well, I could hear. I didn't think I had it on mute. I'm looking at the settings. But anyway, it's all good. I think you guys can all hear me now. Here we go for Jesus. Yes, Jesus done and confirmed. We kind of knew. Listen, a week ago, the deal was done. In my humble opinion, Arsenal were waiting for the guy to finish his holiday. There was no issues or qualms around that whatsoever. Evening, Terry. Hope you had a good weekend. United going to Frenkie. Happy with that. Where next, do you think? Well, look, Man United want Anthony. Man United want Lisandro Martinez. Man United are looking at other midfield players. There's 2 or 3 positions United will tackle. Securing De Jong first was very, very important for Erik Ten Hag because he wants to build his team around it. United were willing to walk away. United were willing to go in a different direction. But before securing other deals, they wanted to see whether or not they could get this done. Now, it's expected to complete by about the 30th. The legalities will start. There's still some fine details to iron out, but Barcelona want to sell him. Frenkie De Jong, and listen, and I say this all the time, he's agreed personal terms. I don't care about the semantics because I literally read this in the Telegraph. Telegraph, great newspaper. They said, I want you to see if this makes sense. So talks are progressing well with Manchester United, although they're yet to discuss personal terms with Frenkie De Jong. Those discussions are not expected to be problematic. Well, do you know why they're not expected to be problematic? Because they've already agreed personal terms via the intermediaries. They know what Frenkie wants. Frenkie knows what Man United are going to offer. Yes, they haven't, quote unquote, officially started, but that isn't the important part. He will agree to join Manchester United without a shadow of a doubt. Deshane here. says, welcome to the club. Let's get Raphinha and Martinez. Come on, you gooners, is what's been said there. Listen, gooners should be over the moon with their window so far. Anthony here says, hi, Terry, Arsenal fan here. Come across you 2 weeks ago, and now I'm watching all your videos every day. Please keep up the good work. Go Gunners. Listen, I appreciate that, my friend, and we work hard, and we try to be as fair as possible. There will be days where you think I'm being, excuse me, biased against Arsenal. I'm not, just giving my humble opinions, but thank you very much for the super chat and, of course, subscribing to the Football Terrace. I really do mean that. And everyone that's tuning in, everyone that's hitting like buttons. Remember, Liez is joining us very, very soon. We're here for a while, so stay with us. We've got loads to delve into, not just the deals, but we're going to be getting Liez's opinion on the window so far, what it means for particular teams, and all that jazz. Terry is considered in the know. He's in the industry. Listen, if I'm considered an in the know, I'm in the know. I don't call myself one. I quite literally have the journalist on the screen. I don't know. When I grew up, an in the know was someone that, an in the know used to be someone that doesn't show their identity, that appears to have inside information, but that clearly isn't me. But maybe it's changed. Maybe the definition has changed. I don't know. Is Eriksen still going to Man United? Pretty mad that he's pondering between United and Brentford. People have got to look at the Eriksen deal and understand it properly. The Eriksen deal needs to be looked at through the right lens. And let me explain it. Man United only started working on these deals for the players we're in for now 5 to 6 weeks ago when the new regime arrived. So when you hear people saying it's taken months, what's going on? Why is it taking so long? It hasn't. Towards the end of the season, Christian Eriksen had no real idea that Man United were going to come in for him. Why? Because Man United hadn't even finalized yet who they were going to go for, because we didn't know where our manager was going to be. He was set to stay in London. That was what he had his heart set on doing. And then Man United have come in and given him a very good, very productive offer. And he's considering it. He's considering whether he wants to change his mind about the plans that him and his family had. Now, playing time is important to him. Location is important to him. And he's weighing things up. It isn't mad. If Man United were fighting for league titles, or just won a Champions League a year or so ago, he probably wouldn't ponder for as long. But United fans have got to accept the position that we find ourselves in. But when Frenkie De Jong goes over the line, when Frenkie De Jong is a Manchester United player, you will see a shift. And people go, okay, well, De Jong's gone there. If Eriksen then joins, well, Eriksen's gone. De Jong's gone. They're buying into what Ten Hag's trying to build, and it will change and become a domino effect. So I wouldn't worry too much. Terry, do you see Arsenal securing Raphinha as well? Arsenal have a tremendous chance of signing Raphinha. They are the front runners in England. Barcelona are still considered the favourites. They're still considered the favourites, but Arsenal Football Club are ahead of Chelsea and they're ahead of Tottenham. If Barca pull away, or if Barca can't get the deal done, or Raphinha completely changes his mind about joining Barcelona, Arsenal have a huge chance, a massive opportunity of bringing him through the door. Do we expect other transfers to quickly come in after De Jong is officially agreed? The hope would be yes. And I'm hoping we're getting a little bit of the London buses here. You know, one's agreed and suddenly two, three, four of them come through the door. That's my hope. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm hoping for as well. But we will see. Liez is going to be joining us in just a few seconds. It's my fault. He was actually on his way into the studio. He thought he was in the studio tonight. And then I've got back. I've been out with the kids. And I'm like, bro, it's not in the studio. He's backstage now. Liez is joining us. Make sure you're smashing like and share buttons. Let's go. How you doing, my friend?
I'm here eventually. When you sent me a text and you sent me that voice note, I looked at my phone for a bit. I was shook. I was like, oh my God, I gotta get all the way back. But I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm out of breath. I ran back to get here, but we're good, man.
Mate, I appreciate you being here. And what a night. Like we were saying, we haven't really spoke a lot since the end of the season. And it feels like this weekend, so many transfers. Raphinha to Arsenal. You know, you've got the situation with, De Jong. It looks like it's done. Jesus has completed the Martinez fight. Declan Rice to Chelsea as well. But I want to start with Frenkie De Jong. Big reports over the course of the weekend that it's imminent now. £69 million. Frenkie De Jong, highly likely to be a Man United player. They're doing the whole personal terms will not be problem. It's changed from no problem to won't be problematic. That's the phrase this year. Every year it changes, right? But personal terms are done. Give me your thoughts on that, my friend.
It's crazy, right? Because just last night we were talking about, oh my God, fans are kind of like getting nervous and they're being impatient. And we were kind of talking about this Frenkie deal. And to be honest, I think they were saying earlier before the news broke today that like they're expecting to get a deal done by the end of the week. It's looking like that's a bit likely. I'm very excited. I think it's important, and I've been saying this is important, that we get this guy Ten Hag his targets. And it's very evident from the moment he came here that the guy he wants his iteration of this United team is around Frenkie De Jong. It's a guy that he gave him the boost at Ajax. He's a player that when you look at this United midfield, it's badly missing a guy who can just control games. He can absolutely brilliantly with the ball. He's actually very good physically, which most people don't give him enough credit for. I think this is a great deal for United. The price is terrific, 69 million. I mean, it's terrific in terms of what Barca wanted at the beginning of the window. I still kind of look at it as this is a guy that was 70 million around a few years ago when Barca first got him from Ajax. 3 years later, and it hasn't been a huge success for him at Barcelona, and he's kind of going for the same price, which probably tells you, if anything, how good a player everyone still knows this guy is. But I'm very happy that it's kind of staying at 69 million pounds, no add-ons. That's kind of like the final fee, if that's what I've understood. I think it's a great deal, man.
Mate, listen, I couldn't agree with you more. And, you know, the fungus fans are out, as we were speaking about last night. The guys are continuously negative for 2 or 3 weeks. Why is it taking so long? They know why it's taking so long. This was a fresh, new, zero work having been done on it deal 5 weeks ago. You know, you hear people go, look how quick City were with Haaland. That was 18 months in the making. It's been already announced but and put out there by the big Liverpool journos. Darwin Núñez was a 3 to 4 month deal. The first story we did on Gabriel Jesus to Arsenal was at the end of March, just completed today. So for a new regime, new transfer people, new coaching staff, new targets to be announced at mid-May, and then by the end of June, you sign one of the best young midfielders in the world. Anyone who's saying that's taken too long, they're either stupid, like people that you couldn't even trust to make toast, or they're deliberately there's no room for negativity. I'm even hearing people moan that he's going to be earning lots of money. And I'm thinking, he's already on £354,000 a week. You expect, so to convince him to come to United, Ten Hag has told him that he is building the team and the system around him. He is going to be the figural point. How can you tell a player that you are going to be at the heart of rebuilding Manchester United? How can a player with all of his career ahead of him, already on £354,000 a week, be expected to take a pay cut when joining the richest football league in the world? It doesn't make any sense. Again, it's another one we're moaning about. And it's like, this is so different. This isn't, Frenkie De Jong wasn't sitting on Manchester City's medical table saying no to Man United, and then we tripled the wage offer, and he says yes. Yeah. I can understand that annoying people, but the way people are trying to shoehorn this into being like a Alexis Sanchez or a Di Maria signing, it's so embarrassing. So embarrassing to see these so-called Man United fans angry that without Champions League football, after the worst season in Premier League history, we've gone and signed one of the best midfielders in the world. I don't understand the anger. I can't understand it.
I think, to be honest with you, you were saying it's either deluded United fans or United fans who are attempting to kind of spin everything in a pessimistic way. And if you want to ask me what my opinion is, I think it's the latter. I think we have plenty of those kind of personalities in our fan base. And I really find it difficult to look at this deal in singularity without thinking about the rest of the market. Just think about the Frenkie De Jong deal and what it means for this team and for Ten Hag. I don't see how you can be upset about it. I think, again, it was so important to give Ten Hag his target, to kind of give him the trust, the boost that you can go and get who you want, and we're going to trust you to do it. Now, you can look at United's other targets. And me personally, the one concern I have about this market is given United's stature, and this isn't to say United have lost their clout, but I worry if United are going to be able to get the right deals done this summer. But if we aren't, I personally told you, Terry, that's okay for me, because I've continuously said, don't cheat the process. If the right guys aren't available this window, I'd rather get 3 players that I know Ten Hag will absolutely get the most out of, that will immediately improve this team, and wait for other guys in the next few years than buy 4 or 5 or 6 players for £20 million each, like a Dan James, for example, that maybe suits us for 1 year, and then a year later, he's absolutely useless to us. I'd much rather trust Ten Hag, back his targets, and go from there.
Mate, you're absolutely spot on. And look, there's a number of different stories coming out about the price. Now, I was told by a journalist at the early middle of this week that it was going to be 70 million euros, rising to about 80 million euros. 80 million euros is 69 million pounds, give or take. So it looks like the initial base fee for De Jong is actually going to be about 56 million. So again, if you rewind back 2 months and said if you just said to a Man United fan in April, 56 million pounds starting fee for Frenkie De Jong, would you take it? Every Man United fan would have bitten your hand off. And that's why I want, literally the timing of you coming on is perfect. Because as you said there, this is when Man United fans, to me, as you say, I think they're looking to spin it negatively and I'm calling them the fungus fans because they only grow themselves in poo. When things are negative and bad, they grow, right?
I like that. I was wondering why you were calling them fungus fans. It makes sense now.
They only grow in shit. Did you know what I'm saying? They only grow when things are bad. They don't grow in the light. They don't grow in goodness. It needs to be damp, horrible, dirty, and smelly for them to grow. Everything they were asking for, we need to not cheat the process, your phrase, but they've said we don't need to cheat. We need to do it properly. We need to give the manager what he wants. So the reason we haven't deviated from De Jong is because the manager wanted him. We've done everything these fans have asked for, and now they're crying about it. It's for me, like, listen, I'm a Man United fan. I'm happy with this deal. I don't really care. I can take a Liverpool and Chelsea and Arsenal fan saying that the best one, and I put a thing out today. According to some of these Man United fans, Frenkie De Jong actually needs to retire because
I saw your video today.
but it's true. They're like this logic is you should not sign a player whose first choice isn't to come to your club. And it's like, well, by that logic, no one should be buying Mo Salah because Mo Salah's first choice is to stay at Liverpool on 400 grand a week. No one's going to call Real Madrid desperate if they sweep in and sign him. It makes zero sense. Chelsea want Dembele, but Dembele, he would like a better offer from Barcelona first. This happens all the time. And the way this transfer has been spun into Man United are doing bad business, Man United are being X, Y, and Z. That's why I've got to call these United fans fungus for a little while because they're crazy to me. Like, it's absolutely crazy, like the frustration that they've got. Would you expect now to see, I wanted to get your take as well, more signings. And what's your thoughts on Christian Eriksen being a United player next year?
Before we were even linked with him, Terry, I actually had in my head, because as you know, I'm a Raphinha guy, even though rest in peace, he's no longer here. But I was someone who also would have liked to see several signings come in this year. But also you have to take into consideration that United is never going to sign 6 or 7 players for 50 million pounds each. It's never going to happen. Like, I see a few people in the comments section saying, why are you spending 80 million pounds on one player when United needs 6? The reality, guys, is under this ownership, United will never sign 6 players at a top level. If you sign 6 players, they'll have to be for free. And Christian Eriksen, and you have a situation, for whatever reason, we know what happened a few years ago, is available on a free. And off the season that he's just coming off with Brentford, it's a free signing that can immediately improve your current situation. He's still playing at a very, very healthy level. I watched a lot of Brentford this season because I was covering them in some form. But even if you weren't watching much of Brentford, you saw the performance that he put on at Old Trafford. I think it was the second or third last game of the season. He ran the show. Brentford lost 3-0. He was probably arguably the best player on the pitch that game. And I think when you look at the amount of attacking midfield players that United have lost this season, Paul Pogba, Jesse Lingard, Juan Mata, and you can say it's good that United lost all 3 of them, whether that's your opinion or not. For me, there is not a reality alive where you lose players for free and it's a good situation. Because at the end of the day, if you don't get money back for those players, it makes it that much more difficult to find a replacement for them because you're not getting anything from them. They're just first-team players that you no longer have. And to replace them, instead of spending 20, 30, 40 million pounds on a replacement, you can get someone at the level of a Christian Eriksen for nothing. Well, obviously his fees, but for no transfer fee. For me, that's brilliant business if you can get it done. And again, even before the links really arose, I kind of looked at him as, if we can get him on a free, that's really, really good business.
Without a doubt. And I think it also shows, I know a lot of United fans, again, the negativity, but we need a destroyer and enforcer in midfield. I was thinking about this earlier on today. Man United are going to play a style of football last year. I think it'll be more penetrative, more deadly, more clinical, but I think it's going to be reminiscent of LVG, possession-based football. I think that's what he's looking at. He is not looking at destroyers. He is not looking at people that are going to sit back, protect that back line, and allow us to spring into the counter. And that's why I'm frustrated that United fans are angry about it, because you've been asking for a manager that's going to take it to teams, take the possession, and especially in the big games, especially in the bigger games against the bigger sides. And we won't be perfect straight away. And to your point earlier, we may finish this window with holes still in our squad, but it's about going for the right people. And if they're not available, if we can't sign a number 9 for the price that we want to spend, don't waste that money. Save it. Keep it in the bank until the right person comes along.
Yeah.
You have to sometimes take your time with it. There isn't a bottomless bucket of money. And at the same time, we've been moaning for 9 years that we've hemorrhaged £1 billion on players that weren't good enough. Therefore, why are we moaning that we're not buying everybody in the here and now? Like, none of it makes any sense. Like, none of the whinging actually makes sense in actuality when these things happen. But look, United, for me, will pick up now. Man United will start to sign 2 or 3 more. I still think we'll sign 4 to 5 players, including some frees.
Really?
I really think we'll get 4 or 5 people in over the course of this.
More confident than me, bro. I expect, to be honest with you, Frenkie is over the line. I think the Eriksen deal, no matter how much hysteria is being made about the Brentford rumors, I don't think Eriksen is going to turn down Manchester United for Brentford. I think Eriksen will be a Man United player. And then I could see us getting, from the rumors, I mean, I see the Lisandro Martinez talk and I see the Anthony talk. I don't think they're going to get both. Ajax will not, I don't think, sell both of their players in this window. To be honest, I think we'll get one of them, if that. I can see us finishing with 3 to 4 signings, maybe max.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I say you say 3 to 4, I'm saying 4 to 5. It might be 4, and I'm both right. Like in that figure. But I think we've also got, listen, a lot of United fans don't like hearing it, but lots of our players in this current squad are going to be much better next year. Like, one of the things that was reported last night is there's going to be a lot of fitness work, but it's going to be fitness work with the ball. And I tweeted something saying that's normal in sport. And I knew I'd get these replies. What do you mean it's normal? Well, we did a lot of fitness drills in kickboxing, but it wasn't just road work and running and skipping. A lot of our fitness drills involved kicking and punching techniques, but it was the repetition of those kicking and punching techniques that gave you the fitness. And that's what Man United need to do more of. It isn't just running up and down hills, going on the treadmill and swimming. It's let's work on, and I just think we're going to be a very, very different team. Not complete, not perfect.
Here's the thing, Terry.
Just different.
Here's the thing. The minute Man United push themselves away from Ranić saying they needed 10 signings, the minute they distanced themselves away from that statement, every one of us knew that they were going to look at the 2019-20 and the 2020-21 season as a more accurate depiction of what this team is. Meaning that they are willing to give the likes of Maguire, the likes of Luke Shaw, the likes of Rashford, the likes of potentially even Martial now, considering we only really have one other senior striker. They are all going to be given another year. Because at the end of the day, if we're not going to sign 10 new players, it means that, A, we don't want to spend the money all at once, which fair enough. I mean, most teams don't sign 10 players in one window anyways. But B, we're going to have to make do with what we already have. And I think this board, to be honest, is praying that, like I said, the 1920 and the 2021 season are accurate depictions of this team, and that last season was the fluke. Last season was the one-off season that can never happen again. And as United fans, we have to hope that happens, to be honest. We are on our knees that Marcus Rashford has a revival of his career, because if he doesn't, we're in real trouble because of our wing depth. We're on our knees that Harry Maguire can kind of bring himself back to his Euros form and his 2021 season form, because if not, a season where our defense is going to look shocking. Same for Shaw, same for Martial.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think, again, what Rangnick was never questioned on, because journalists don't like to do this. They like to leave it open. The question to Rangnick should have been, well, how quickly do you expect the club to sign 10 players? Because for me, that's how many players are probably needed to get us to be title challengers. But that might take 2 to 3 summers to sign that, just like Liverpool. It took them 2 or 3 windows with Klopp to get to a point where his team could compete. So Definitely. They bought that amount of players. You know, I swear I read Arsenal so far under Arteta have signed 50 odd players. Like, a lot of them are also, it's a little bit disingenuous because you sign lots of sometimes players that you spend like 200 grand on that are 16 that go into your academy, count as transfers. But like, they're easily first team players. They must have signed 15 to 20 people under his time. Yeah. And this is my thing. Like, journalists never ask the next question, and it always really frustrates me. We've got some super chats to do here. We'll come to the Arsenal ones when we move on to Arsenal in a minute here. Do we expect other transfers quickly from that point? We kind of touched on that one, I think so. Dan Guna says 5 months is too long. It takes 2 days on Football Manager to sign players. Yeah, that's where a lot of people do get their knowledge from.
Career mode. You meet with the agent the next day.
Exactly. Harrison here says, Terry, it's gone from 100 million euros for Frenkie De Jong down to 80 million, 65 plus 15 in add-ons, and now we're overpaying respectively. City paid 50 million pounds for Phillips, who is not on the same level and is a backup. Great deal for United. But that's a great point. I mean, 45 million, I think it is, rising to 50. So you kind of look at it and there's not a big differential in the costings. And if you were to ask now, you'd get people to say Phillips. But if you lined up 100 football fans a year ago and said, who's better, Calvin Phillips or Frenkie De Jong? De Jong would have got 90% of the vote. So you have to put these deals into perspective. If Calvin Phillips is...
In this window, I'm taking De Jong over Calvin Phillips every day of the week.
Declan Rice is being touted at 100 million pounds. Like, Frenkie De Jong is cheap at 56 as
This
a
is the
starting
market.
price.
Yeah.
Exactly. Buying De Jong is spending most of your budget plugging one hole when you've got 4 or 5 more equal size holes.
So Lewis, would you rather we spent 20? We bought 5 20 million pound players that potentially may improve our team, or would you rather sign Ten Hag's very first target, his priority, and then go from there? Because again, this goes back to what Terry. If I were to ask you, what's your expectation for Manchester United this season? What would it be?
Honestly, it's play better football, be more dominant in games.
Thank you. I would say the exact same thing. My expectation this season for Erik Ten Hag is to implement a sustainable style of attacking football that I can see within months, if not weeks. And also, regardless of results, I can kind of look at and say, all right, all we need are better players to improve the results. But the style of play is already there. So therefore, if that's the case, I can trust this guy's vision long term. If we don't sign all 5 players that Ten Hag needs this summer, I already see enough from his style of play that, okay, the next summer we get 2 more guys that improve results. Then the next summer after that, we sign 2 more guys. If we sign 5 guys that will guarantee us to get into the top 4 this season, but in 2 years, they're dead weight, they're dead food. What's the point of buying them now? I would rather just take it easy, trust the process, don't cheat the process. Like I keep saying, buy the players that you need, not the players that may get you top 4, may get you top 6 immediately.
I couldn't agree with you more, and it's about taking that time with it. And equally, this is where Man United fans have got to be strong, because rivals, listen, Lewis is entitled to, he says your budget, so I'm assuming Lewis is not a Manchester United fan. Listen, I must have read about 1 million tweets saying the same thing. Well, you're buying Frenkie De Jong, but you need a DM, therefore it's not that good a signing. What you're actually saying is, how the hell have Man United pulled off Frenkie De Jong when they've been as bad as they are? You can look for, there is no negative to signing Frenkie De Jong. The only negative is if in 18 months, the club go in a brand new direction away from Erik Ten Hag and he's surplus to requirements. But in the here and now, it's not a bad signing, you know, it really isn't. Let's do some more of these super chats that have come through. We are talking Arsenal and their chase for Raphinha, Gabriel Jesus over the line, Declan Rice chat as well. We're covering a number of transfers on the show, but please smash that like button for us. The big breaking news this afternoon, if you are just tuning in, is Man United are on the edge of completing a deal, according to reports. £69 million in total, £56 million upfront fee for Frenkie De Jong. Chica here says, Terry and Liaz, I am so sorry if I spelt your name wrong. No problem. Well, it's for Liaz to say. I'm sure he's not bothered.
It's not a problem either.
Ten Hag a lot sooner. You could have challenged for the league a long time ago. Also, until Arsenal challenge for the league, I will never prop them. Yeah, I mean, look, with hindsight, we should have probably just bought in Ten Hag in the November, broke the bank to bring him in, because obviously that second half of the season ended up being a little bit of we ended up getting rid of the guy that we thought was going to consult for 2. It was a bit of a wasted 6 months, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, a huge waste of 6 months, if you ask me.
No doubt. Adrian says, Terry, I can't relax because it's now confirmed that West Ham won't sell Rice. That means we won't get a DM and we'll finish 6th. Is it confirmed that I've not seen anywhere say 100% categorically West Ham won't sell him? I think there's a long way in those negotiations to go, especially with West Ham wanting Broja. I think there's something to be done there. We'll move on to that a little bit later. Terry, tell your sad H7 mod to do his job properly. His job is to stop racism and sexism. That's the only job mods have got. That's it.
You paid for that comment? That's crazy.
4,000 people watching live, which is amazing, people. Make sure that like button is being smashed, though. Let's get this past 1,000 likes live on the air. 69 million for Frenkie De Jong. What a lucky number. Hope United, their transfer window now. It's a great number, 69. It's a brilliant number. One of my favorites on a Saturday night. I say that. I say that for free. It's a good one. Do you think Gary Neville will still be confused by Arsenal's transfer slash squad plan at the start of next season? I mean, it kind of brings us nicely. It's a great segue onto Arsenal. I mean, they've completed the deal for Gabriel Jesus today. They're leading the race for Raphinha. They're leading the race for Alessandro Martinez. All of this.
Yuri Tielemans.
Yuri Tielemans, they've won. They just got a bid for him. They're doing some serious business, aren't they, Arsenal?
I don't want to be pocket watching here, and I hope no one takes this the wrong way, but I'm just surprised where all this money has come from for Arsenal. This is a crazy window. If they get all their targets, guys, this is the window of the summer, in my opinion. And I think it's really good business, to be honest with you. I think you look at Arsenal's first 11 last season, for the most part, could compete with most teams, I think. And I think you looked at the one-off games against City and against Liverpool, specifically in the second half of the season. They didn't win either game, don't get it twisted, but they held their own, I thought. And I really look at the backups that was what was holding them back. When Xhaka or when Partey went out and Lokonga clearly wasn't ready, the team sort of fell apart. Bukayo Saka, so young, played every single minute of the season last year. Way too much pressure on what is an absolutely talented player, but a player that does not need that much pressure on his shoulders at such a young age. He almost did it, but at the end of the season, you kind of saw his form start to fade away, and that's absolutely normal. Young players, that's what happens with them. And I think you look throughout the pitch, even Tierney coming out and Cedric had to come in and Tavares had to come in. The levels drastically dropped. So now I look at, and don't forget about the Lacazette situation. You're now bringing in a guy like Gabriel Jesus, who, to be fair, has never been the main guy at Manchester City, but every single time he was called up upon them, he tended to produce. And I think this is really the stage for him that's going to elevate him to a level that I personally believe Jesus can reach. I think he's almost your modern day forward in that people ask, is he a striker? Is he a right winger? Is he a left winger? I think the beauty of Gabriel Jesus is he can operate in all three of those positions to such a high level. He's a great presser, great off the ball, great in possession. I think he's a terrific player. Raphinha, if they can get that deal over the line, I'm a massive Raphinha fan. Creates a bit of competition between himself and Saka. Both of them can also play on the left. Both of them can play in midfield. Tielemans, I'm a big fan of him. More depth in the midfield in case Partey, Xhaka, Odegaard, now Vieira as well are out. I think this is a great window if they get all these guys in. Again, I'm just surprised where all the money came from. Don't let me pocket watch, but I'm very surprised that they can bring in all these players at once. But also fair play to is it Josh Kroenke, the younger one? It seems like in the last few years, he's really starting to get more and more invested into the club, showing more and more interest, kind of taking it away from Stan. And maybe the results are finally being reaped.
Do you know what it is? James actually said, Terry, are you intimidated by Arsenal's business? Intimidated might be the wrong word, but it's scary. And I get your point. I see Gooners clipping up Rants and those guys. I saw Gooners clipping up Rory Jennings. I'm sure they're going to clip you up now, asking where the money's
that's why I kind of treaded on the line. I'm not spending your money by all means. I'm just curious.
No. Do you know what it comes down to? I've been talking about this about Arsenal Football Club for 7 years online. Arsenal are massive. Arsenal are rich. Arsenal and this, we can't compete. We don't have the money. If they land all their targets this summer, it means they've spent just under £500 million on Mikel Arteta's squad. Arsenal spend big money. They've not always spent the most, but they've always spent big amounts of money. Yeah. There's this sort of notion. The reason their net spend used to be good is they spend money on players, but then they'd end up losing their best stars. Yeah. Arsenal have always had this money. So for people to be shocked, they're just loosening those purse strings and spending what they've always, in my opinion, had. And I'm talking relatively, because there's more money in football now than 10, 20, 30 years ago. But Arsenal have always had it. They've just neglected it. I remember there was 2 or 3 Januaries when Wenger was their manager, where if they just spent in that Jan and strengthened, I remember the Higuain famous transfer saga. If they'd have just signed someone like that, and he was in his pomp at the time, they could have gone on to that next level. I swear that was the year that Leicester went on to win the league. It was like, if they'd have reinforced in that January, they'd be in a better position. And I think where Arsenal fans should be happy is not only are they looking at quality, there isn't a player they're looking at who isn't very good to top class,
Sure.
in my opinion. They're looking at absolute stars, great age profile with most of them. They're men. They're not these kids. Fabio Vieira's young, but the rest are kind of 24 to 26, give or take. Yeah, great age. Pomp, not quite in their pomp, but experienced and long enough in the tooth to go to that next level.
They remind me of when Manchester City were making their initial business under Pep, the age level of those players. Sane, who else was there? Kyle Walker. Like that age, John Stones, 24, 25, 26 years old, and that they're at a great age. They're not a year or two away from being finished, but they're also right about to hit their prime. I think that the age, I honestly give so much credit to Arteta in this regard. And I've criticized him last season a bit in terms of in the big games. I always felt his team kind of flattered to deceive. But one thing I have to give massive credit to Arteta for, and maybe Ed do some credit as well. I don't know who's really pulling the strings behind these transfers, is most of their signings have really worked out. I mean, the signings they made last summer, I was critical of a few of them before I really got to see them play at Arsenal. But Ben White, Ramsdale, Odegaard, Arte, I really feel like for most part, they've lived up to their standards. They've outdone the standards or the expectations that I had for them.
Mate, they have, and I think that this is what makes. By the way, Abba here says title charge next season. Come on, you gooners! Not even joking. And listen, the only reason title charges are too far off is because of the levels and consistency of Liverpool's and City's. The only way Arsenal or any other teams in a title race next year, as it stands, is if those two teams drop off, and it kind of like if Arsenal get better by 15 points, and those two drop off by that kind of level, then maybe you meet in the middle, but. This is why it's easier for Arsenal this year, because last year was successful. And this is why when I get people like Lee Gunner, people will say, until we're winning league titles, I don't celebrate anything. But I think you have to recognize and be happy with the signs of progression, because it enables you to keep attracting more players. Now, equally, Arsenal are a big Arsenal Football Club. They can always attract players, but people can see that there is progression. There's a feel-good factor. There's a good culture at the club. There's a good attitude. Now, towards the end of the season, they fell off and they had top four in their hands and they let it fall through. But how do you respond to that? So when you're talking to Jesus, when you're talking to Raphinha, when you're talking to Tielemans, you can say, yeah, we did throw it away last year, but that's exactly why you are being approached and the others, because we think introducing you stops that from happening. We have depth, we have experience, we have more quality than before. And I think the final piece of the puzzle is Arsenal fans are going to get the answer that they've been seeking now for 2 or 3 years. They will find out whether Arteta really is good enough. No more excuses, no more, not his squad, no more, we've still got holes. They are going to go into this season all guns blazing, excuse the pun, and be ready to push forward. And I think Arsenal fans should be so infused. They should be so happy. They should be so proud of how their team is behaving, how their team is operating. And he said with Raphinha, if they can, Barcelona have got a lot of issues. And Raphinha seems like he's further down the pecking order than other signings, Bernardo Silva, Lewandowski, they need some defenders. Yeah, it kind of depends how it all kind of works out in relation to that. But at the end of the day, if they pull off Raphinha, if they add that to Jesus, if they go back and get Tielemans, if they, Man United and Arsenal are going head to head in a fight over Lisandro Martinez. If Martinez picks Arsenal over Man United, it's a message to everybody that anyone writing Arsenal off are absolutely off their heads, because the players are believing in it. The players from all different walks of life are believing in what they're doing there again. And that feel-good factor is worth points, because that will resonate itself. And at the very least, it's win-win. Even if Arteta isn't good enough, even if Arteta throws it away, you just bring in a better manager that can utilize this great squad you've built. Like, it isn't like it's a team all in their late 20s, early 30s, mid 30s. And it's like, we've got to win the league this year or we're done. We're at the end of our tether. This is a team that's literally got 6-7 years in it. So it's honestly, there is no negativities around Arsenal at the minute whatsoever. I think they're in such a good position. It's kind of unbelievable, really. It really is.
I think too, you look at their youngsters as well. Like, let's talk about the transfers, but the likes of Saka, Martinelli, Smith Rowe, even Eddie Nketiah, Saliba, Lokonga, these guys are all only going to get better. These guys are all under the age of 22, 23 years old. And they just came off the seasons they just had. I think people have to kind of take youngsters and the seasons they're having into perspective sometimes, and that what Bukayo Saka did last season, the amount of games he played, the amount of responsibility he had, isn't normal for a player of his age. And I think it's only going to keep improving him. It's only going to keep maturing him. I think Arsenal are in a really, really good place. And if they're able to get all these signings done, they're, for me, undoubtedly the winners of this transfer window.
Without a doubt, as it stands, right? I mean, it all depends on what everybody else does, because Chelsea, we are going to move on to Chelsea in a moment.
Yeah.
Chelsea have suddenly, we spoke about, well, actually, we'll move on to Chelsea after these super chats, actually, because it will make more sense. We won't start the conversation on that. Any questions that you have for myself, or mainly Liaz? We don't see Liaz as often anymore. He's a busy boy, but as the season begins, of course, he'll be back around, I'm sure. Terry, did Tom Keane expedite the process? Well, he has got Declan Rice's mobile number. Do you know what I loved about that line? Right, it's clearly Samuel Luckhurst it was satire. It was a joke. And it actually triggered Man United fans to like, oh my, I can't believe that's the only reason he got the job. It's like, are you stupid? Do you really think like it's even a serious comment? Barca rejected the deal. Check it. They want more. Listen, it might end up going up by a little bit, but listen, Barcelona have been walking all over Europe this summer. They want to get rid of Frenkie De Jong, not because he's a bad player. He hasn't quite worked out there. They want to do this Pedri, Gavi, Kesse thing. They are going, at some point, they're going to accept. I'm not even worried about Barca. Like, the Barca press have been so hot on this. They're like, Barca want to get rid of him. Nothing to do with the money. They just want to get rid of him. Like, it's all good news. What are the chances of Arsenal signing Raphinha? Looking at their activity this window, it's mad. Even if Arteta doesn't work out, any decent manager will feast on this squad. Unbelievable business. I mean, if you read the reports, David Ornstein, who, for me, David Ornstein is almost, and I mean this as a compliment. You watch those films where you get that criminal defense lawyer and he only accepts cases he knows you'll win. Do you get what I mean? and we can't win it in court. We do a plea hearing because that counts as a win, right? If the plea is accepted. That's Ornstein. And I mean this with all due respect. Ornstein has earned, but he's earned this. He's put himself in a position where he doesn't even need to mention a transfer until he pretty much knows it's likely to happen or is going to happen. He'll hold
Who does that sound like? Who does that sound like, Terry?
Are you talking about Matt Fabalicious?
It's the same thing for me. Like, these guys have gotten themselves to a status and to a level that they don't have to worry about like getting every single minute detail up to the end deal done. Like, they have this clout now, and they have this, what's the right word? Like, people respect their word. If you see a Fabrizio Romano tweet or a David Ornstein tweet, bam, there's no hesitation. It's 100% done. So why the hell would they worry about breaking down every single detail day by day about what's going on?
And it's what I say to people is this: it's also the up and coming journalists have to go earlier because they're earning their stripes. And there's a guy that I've seen Ornstein and Fabrizio mention in the last few weeks, Santi. Santi's a guy that I've DM'd and I've had conversations with in the last 2 or 3 years. I remember last summer, everyone was saying he was some tier 72. Now, suddenly, the two most respected transfer journalists have been quoting his stuff. And it's because, he's now getting his flowers for being consistent in his approach. But when you get to a certain level, you don't need to take the early risks by report. And again, football fans create this scenario where we want daily updates. And in an industry where it's so fluid and things change like this, and Chelsea are a great example of this. Chelsea were not looking at players they're trying to sign. They weren't looking at the lit 2 weeks ago. Marina and that regime has been moved on. It's right, new targets. So any journalist that's like, yeah, Jules Koundé is going to happen, they were right. It was going to happen. Chelsea have now changed. So therefore the targets have changed. The journalists weren't wrong. The world's just changed. It just is what it is. Do you know what I mean? And I think for me, once upon a time, it was a scientific fact that the world was flat until we found out it wasn't. I know some people still think it is, by the way, but do you get my point? Once upon a time, there was a time in human history where we didn't know that dinosaurs existed. But it was there. It just sometimes things change when new information comes out or you discover things. And I think people have got to understand that. Ndidi from Leicester instead of Tielemans for Arsenal. Ndidi's a weird player that no one's really wanting. Like, he's gone out of fashion, hasn't he? Like, no one really wants him anymore, where 2 years ago, everyone wanted to buy him.
I just look at the modern day DM and you look at the top clubs, who their DMs are, and they're players that can really receive the ball off their center backs. They're the first line of attack, really. They're the Regista, if you'd like the Jorginho, the Busquets, like that, the Rodri, the Fabinho. Ndidi is a destroyer. Ndidi is one of the best destroyers for me in world football. But I don't think I'm being harsh in saying that his ability on the ball probably isn't at the level that the top clubs who want to be progressive and positive in possession are looking for, in my opinion. Without sounding too harsh on Ndidi, I think a club who wants to sit back and play more reactively is looking for an Ndidi. Not like a Ten Hag, for example, is never going to sign Wilfred Ndidi. It's never going to happen.
Yeah, I just got a message here from a man like Daps. He says, you both are spitting facts today. Ferran Torres is an elite guest.
I can never escape him, man.
Yeah, you're never getting rid of that one. No, I agree with Ndidi. And if you think about Man United, we are looking to play possession-based football. You look at the midfielders and what's being said. And listen, it's funny, really, because you hear the reports of United are going to try and do more ball work. Rashford's dead. McTominay's dead. And I'm like, yeah, maybe in the long term, medium to long term, that they will be finished at the club. But people are missing the positive. Even the bad players are going to look better playing in this system because we're doing more ball work. Like, actually, I say, even if you're an average footballer, if you trained, if you're an average Sunday league footballer and you went and trained 3 hours a day with Erik Ten Hag 5 days a week, your game's going to get better. Like, you will improve. And the one thing, again, the Fungus fans moaned about a lot was no system, no style, no structure to our team. Well, we're going to have that now. Things will be better. I don't quite understand the negativity, but we will see. Some more super chats here have come through. First one here says... before we read that one. Oh, we've already done that one. Sorry, this one here says, keep, sell, or loan Bellingham, Foden, Saka.
Keep Foden. Ooh, I think Bellingham, to be honest, as talented as he is slightly overrated in my way. But I also still really rate him. I just think like people are going too far with him. I'd keep Foden, loan Bellingham, sell Saka.
I would keep Saka.
Really?
Sell Foden, loan Saka. No, sorry. Keep Saka, loan Bellingham, sell Foden. Foden I'd sell because
really?
his mum scares me. Like, he's straight up. Like,
oh man.
Yeah, no, I think. Listen, Foden's brilliant. Foden is absolutely top class. But I've got to pick one, and I'm just going to go with the one that plays my rivals. I'm going to be really salty.
Fair enough.
Both your top 6 predictions. We'll come back to that a little bit later in the show, my friend. Don't worry, we haven't forgotten about it. We will come back to that. But I wanted to speak Chelsea as well, because Chelsea have a lot of rivals. Gal's the worst for this. Sorry, my brother, but I'm calling you out. You're finished now. You're not going to spend it like in the Roman era.
He's saying all of that because I was watching his stream the other day, and he's like, "This season, I'm going to make it a point that I'm not going to go at other rivals. I'm just going to focus on Arsenal." He was saying that just a week ago.
Gal can't do that, He cannot do it. Like, he is a crackhead for banter. Like, does that make sense? Like, he is clucking at the bit, chomping at the bit to get it. But a lot of people have kind of, I think they've got this weird delusion. Like, they live in Rainbow Land, and they think that Chelsea are going to fall off. They're linked to Raheem Sterling.
I want to talk about Sterling whenever you're done. I'm very interested in talking about Sterling.
They're going to sign Sterling. They may bring in Dembele. They're looking at the lit at the back. And Declan Rice feels, to me right now, inevitable.
Really?
It feels inevitable that something's going to happen. He's not going to sign a new deal. The value is going to drop year on year, and they're going to get to a point soon. And I know West Ham fans hate hearing this, but at some point, Declan Rice is going to get annoyed about staying, and it will impact how he plays. And if he has a season where he's not as good, you're going to lose 20, 30, 40 million pounds in valuation because everyone's waiting for it to drop. I think they need to stop being so greedy, West Ham, come to a deal, 65, 70 million plus Broja. As an example, a deal like that, if they end up with De Ligt, Rice, Sterling and Dembele, or Sterling and Raphinha, Sterling and somebody else, Chelsea Football Club are going to be very, very good next year, in my opinion. I think they'll be very, very good next year. But yeah, Raheem Sterling's one of the players they're heavily linked with, major target. Like, what's your take on him going there?
I see and you know what? This sums up Raheem Sterling, to be honest with you. The difference in opinion over this deal from Chelsea fans, from football fans, from City fans is crazy to me. And it's that you have some people who love the deal. Some City fans love the deal. Some City fans are devastated about the deal. Some Chelsea fans are interested in the deal, and some Chelsea fans don't want anything to do with him. But for me, I think Raheem Sterling, Terry, is one of the most disrespected footballers on the planet, in my opinion. And that people have this narrative, like the narrative around Raheem Sterling for most football fans, product of the City system. He thrived off post tap-ins. He's nothing without Pep Guardiola. But for me, I look at Raheem Sterling. Terry, cast your mind to how many world-class players Pep Guardiola has managed throughout his career. Barca, Bayern, Manchester City. Only 2 players ever have scored more goals for Pep Guardiola than Raheem Sterling. Aguero, and it's Lionel Messi. And then only 2 players in Pep Guardiola's entire managerial history have assisted more than Raheem Sterling. Kevin De Bruyne and Lionel Messi. That's not bad company to be in. So for everyone who claims that Raheem Sterling is just a product of the City system, I'd actually argue that Sterling is crucial to the way City plays and that without him, the system isn't as effective. Now, people can say, okay, the style, the position that he's going to be playing in at Chelsea will require him to be more creative. It'll require him to be on the ball more. That sounds like what he just did for England in the Euros when, newsflash, he was the best player at the tournament. He was creating the most chances, dribbling the most players, scoring goals for fun. This is a top player that, for me, narrative, agenda, media bias has completely ruined his reputation. And I think Chelsea, for a 27-year-old who scored over 100 Premier League goals from the wing, to be signing him for what? 50 million pounds, I'm hearing is the approximation. That's 45. Brilliant business, guys. That's an absolutely brilliant deal. And I think Chelsea are doing bits if they can get that over the line.
Mate, you're absolutely spot on about Raheem Sterling. And I think that Chelsea is signing one of the best attackers in Premier League history. And I'll give you an example. Chelsea fans won't like hearing this, but I made this point a few years back. I think he's gone a little bit stale at Man City, first and foremost. But that's because not everybody can spend a decade, 12 years, 15 years at one club. Sometimes a change is as good as a rest. And I think Guardiola, like all great managers, realizes at times you need to make these almost sacrificial type sales where you move a player who's still very good on and you bring somebody else new in. You've got to keep your opponents guessing. You can't become kind of predictable in that way. Fergie did. Fergie got rid of Paul Ince, Kanchelskis, and Mark Hughes when they were in their pomp because it was like, now's the right time to, he did this on a number of occasions, sometimes for playing reasons, sometimes for personal reasons. When he got rid of Ruud van Nistelrooy was still at his best, but it was the right time for him to be moved on. So I think Pep's doing it, not because Sterling is a bad player, but I think now is the right time.
Here's the thing though, Terry, and this is going to sound crazy, especially coming from me, because you know how much I love this guy. But I question from a footballing point of view, from a logistics point of view, whether keeping Mahrez and selling Sterling, considering their ages, is actually the right move, to be honest with you. And you know me, I love Mahrez. That's one of my favorite players ever. But I'm looking at the ages. I'm looking at what each brings to the team. I'm looking at how City are going to want to play now that they have Haaland up front. I question whether that's the right move from City.
But I get that. I think it's more. I think Mahrez is quite happy to sit on the bench.
Yeah, that's probably it.
I think Raheem Sterling, it's almost out of respect to him to say, listen, you've been a brilliant servant for City. You've been brilliant for my system. I want you in here. I think your point earlier, though, that I was alluding to is I get sick to my back teeth with this weird notion of so-and-so is a system player. Now, of course, certain players thrive in particular systems because of, there's a match. There's a kind of cohesive kind of feeling about it. However, if everybody could score Raheem Sterling goals for Man City, then everybody would be scoring Raheem Sterling goals for Man City, the amount. But he's scoring them, nobody else. He scores at that rate. Nobody else, because he's anticipating, he's making the runs, he's finding the right space. And I always remember listening to Ian Wright speak, and somebody kind of said, well, how do you know where to be and at what time? And he just said, it's like a feeling. It's not even coached. It's a feeling to know where to go and where to be. Yep. There's a reason that Jack Grealish can play in that position. Foden has sometimes been in that more advanced position, and none of them have scored the level of goals that Raheem Sterling has, because he knows where to go and what to do. And yes, an element of it is coach, but Guardiola himself has said this. I coach my team to get the ball to in and around the edge of the box. Then their individual brilliance takes over. So he isn't, in my opinion, making Raheem Sterling 4 hours a day run these drills to get to the back post. There'll be elements and feedback and try doing this, but it's on Raheem Sterling to know when to make that run. It's on Raheem Sterling to know when to hold back, when to make the run, when to go near post, far post. He has to think about these things. Movement and the finding of space is one of the most underrated skill sets, because the problem with it is that it's hard to quantify. Does that make sense? Because there isn't a statistic that backs it up. And I've always said the people that call themselves eye test merchants, they're the biggest fraudsters in the world, because what they often tend to do when you say, I don't believe your eye is telling you the truth, what do they throw at you to prove their eye test? A stat. The irony is absolutely amazing. I can prove to you my eye works because of this statistic, but you say stats don't mean anything. It doesn't ever make any sense. Raheem Sterling is a top class player, and Chelsea fans won't like hearing this. He is not technically as good as Eden Hazard. He isn't.
Definitely.
But from a production point of view, goals and assists, he could be better. I think he will consist. If the system works at Chelsea for 3 or 4 years, over a 3 or 4 year period, if you look at Eden Hazard's best 3 or 4 year period and you then compare it, I think Raheem Sterling could score and assist more goals. Doesn't make him a better player. I'm not suggesting that Hazard wasn't influential. I'm not suggesting that Hazard didn't help drag the team over the line. But on a production level, putting the ball in the back of the net and creating those gilt-edged chances, he just has the ability to do it in a less flamboyant way. And again, they've got to get the mixture right, because you need play. Listen, there isn't another Eden Hazard. Chelsea are not going to sign another player this summer that has the ability to dribble the ball, to make space, to create opportunity.
Maybe Ousmane Dembele, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, Dembele, if he stays fit. But do you know what's interesting? You get Dembele on the right and Raheem Sterling on the left. They'll both do it in very different ways. But what you can end up with Raheem Sterling is putting that ball in the back of the net, which is just so important. And people can say that it's a stat. Listen, I'll give you a little stat. I'll give you a little stat. If you score more goals and concede less goals than everybody else, typically you'll win the league. They're stats. And there is no such thing as a tap-in merchant. You want to know why the tap-in merchant thing is one of the biggest fallacies in football? Because if it was so easy to be a tap-in merchant, every single number 9 in the Premier League would score 20-plus goals a season. Yeah. They don't do that.
No, it's a casual take. Calling a player a tap-in merchant is a casual take, because to get into a position to consistently be scoring tap-ins, your movement has to be elite. Your IQ has to be elite. You have to be able to run past there's no such thing as being a tap-in merchant. It's a myth.
Absolutely. Like, Terry, you can't have a channel and say things like that. So I can't say that I think in a brilliant Chelsea system, Raheem Sterling could score and assist more goals over a 4 or 5 year period than Eden Hazard did.
Yeah, he didn't call him a better player. He didn't say he's going to be a bigger legend. He's going to show more for Chelsea. Like, he said he's going to score more. Over the last 5 years, over their careers, Raheem Sterling has scored more goals than Eden Hazard. Fact. That's not to say he's a better player than Hazard.
Exactly. You can't buy it. There's very few players out there that can do what Eden Hazard did. So this is something football fans have got to learn about the game. When you lose a player of that level, a like-for-like replacement is nigh on impossible. What you need to do is replace him in a different way. Man United tried 2 or 3 times after Roy Keane left of buying a Roy Keane type midfielder. Never worked. So in the end, they went for Michael Carrick, completely different in the same position, and did something new. That's what Chelsea need. You're not going to get a new Eden Hazard. So what you need, how do you make up for it? Well, let's buy a player that has the ability to be more productive in terms of scoring and assisting goals. It might not look as good. It might not have the same highlight reel. Yes, he might make some high-profile misses, but if he's putting the ball in the back of the net in 80% of the games that he plays in, or creating in 80% of the games that he plays in, I swear he's goal. He scored 200. I'm going to round these numbers down. I think he scored an assist like 210 goals in 339 games. 61%. It might even be more. If he's scoring and assisting in 61% of his games, he'll fill the void. Doesn't make him a better footballer, but it's filling the void that Chelsea haven't done yet. That you haven't filled the void of Eden Hazard leaving. And like I've said, you don't do that like for like. You have to do it in a different way. Look at the approach that, you've lost Lukaku. You're not really linked to any out-and-out number 9s. Why? Because there aren't very many of a world-class level that are available. So what do? Well, let's go and buy some inside forwards that score and create. That way we'll get the goals from there. Nothing doesn't have to. I mean, interestingly, City and Liverpool doing the opposite. They're actually going for traditional number 9s now to create their goals, as opposed to their inside forwards. But as I said before, no one is stating, I'm not stating that Raheem Sterling is better, like as in a technical footballer, but he might score and assist more goals. And if you sort of weigh the two things up, you've got to fill the void. And so far, you haven't had an attacker that's really done good enough at Chelsea since Eden Hazard has left the football club. But, that's a great deal for him. You've also got the other one, which is obviously being touted about, which is Declan Rice. I said it.
Declan Rice.
Yeah, I think Declan Rice is inevitable. I really think it's inevitable. Do you think Declan Rice will do a good job if and when he goes to like a big club?
Yeah, I think so. He's a good player. I don't think he's going to leave this summer, Terry. To be honest with you, let me pull out my own ITK sources out of the bag right now. I spoke to a West Ham reporter last year, actually. This isn't the claim that I got sources or anything. It was just like a one-off. I was having a drink with this guy, and the subject got brought up. And he told me at West Ham, everyone at the club, Declan Rice wants to go to Chelsea. Everyone there knows it. It's just a matter of time. But also, it's a situation where he also understands that the club wants to get the best deal out of him. And he's not really like knocking at their office every single day, like begging for a move. Like he knows that over time it'll get done. And West Ham aren't like, if the time comes, the time comes. They're not against him. I don't think that summer comes that comes this summer. How many years does Declan Rice have on his contract? I swear it's like 3, right?
Oh, let's have a little look here. Declan Rice. Let's have a little look. I've got it on this website. Let's go to his profile. I want to say 2, but it could definitely be 3. 2 years. It ends. Oh, actually, no. 2 years with a 1-year club option to extend. So 20.
Right. So it's 3 years. Yeah. Right. So for me, I mean, look, if West Ham want to make the most amount of money possible, you want to sell them as early as possible. But I think you look at some of the deals that West Ham are kind of getting done. Who is it that they're linked with today? Danjuma. That's another player that for me, that's a Champions League level player coming to West Ham, boosts the club profile even more, improves from the likes of Benrahma. I think that's a great deal. I think West Ham will probably push for possibly even Champions League positions as much as possible this last season. And I could see Declan Rice. In fact, I do see Declan Rice leaving next summer, right before the World Cup as well. I don't think this move gets done this summer. But to answer your question, Declan Rice to any top team, I think is doing a great job. Is he the perfect defensive midfielder? No, but I think he provides something that most defensive midfielders don't. And that's his ability to carry the ball is actually very, very underrated for a player of that deep lying position. I think he's great. I don't agree with the price. I think the price is crazy, but that's what you get. Tchouaméni just went for how much to Real Madrid? That's a defensive midfielder going for how much? You're gonna pay that much in the market, and I think as well as being an England international, as well as being a West Ham starter in the Premier League at his age, England, that's what you get, man.
Mate, I couldn't agree with you more. Look, I understand some Chelsea fans are like it could eat too much into the budget. It could be too big a deal. Some people don't rate him, and sometimes I wish that Declan Rice wasn't English, because I think some people just have a problem with English players. They just do, and we've seen that before. They're given it's the equilibrium. Do you know what I mean? Because some foreign players are treated absolutely just disgustingly by the press. So it's almost like this. Well, we're going to do the same thing to Declan Rice or Harry Kane or whoever else. But I think he's a phenomenal football player. And again, it could be a game-changing signing for Chelsea. Your point on West Ham is key, though, as you say. They are going to lose him at some point. Declan Rice has got to... At some point, Declan Rice has got to do something. Transfer request, whatever it may be. Because, yes, there's 3 years remaining. So West Ham, we'll keep him for 3 years. But you don't want to be losing him for free. If you get 80, 90 million, plus someone like Broja now this summer, and then reinvest that money well, that's going to see you through. Because at some point, he's going to leave. And do you know what West Ham don't want to do? This team's probably got 2 or 3 years of it. It's a very good team. It's probably got 2 or 3 years until like certain players are a little bit too old or they want to move on and go elsewhere. It might have 2 or 3 more years left. What they don't want to do is come to the end of this team's kind of pomp. Then Declan Rice goes and the team's over the hill anyway, because then you might find that you sink like a ship, sinking like the Titanic. Cash in now and reinvest that money and try and keep yourselves where you are, kind of near the top. I think those things.
Harry, what's the fee that West Ham deem is acceptable enough to make profit on this summer, where they're happy with it, but also that other teams aren't going to basically close the door when they hear the price? Because 100 million for me is probably the most that a team should pay for Declan Rice. But I'm of the opinion that West Ham might charge even more when they see some of the deals kind of going on.
They may and may not. I think someone like Frenkie De Jong with 2 years left on his contract going for 50, 56 to sort of 65, depending on with the add-ons. I think that helps. Calvin Phillips going for 45 million. That should help the teams buying Declan Rice, because he isn't doubly as good as those individuals. And it kind of sets a marker, as it were. And I think that Man United, they made a mistake West Ham really wanted Jesse Lingard. How we didn't manage to work out a deal where you could, and Lingard's seemingly happy to go back. So it's almost this case of like there was a deal there. Broja wants to play regular first team football and he wants an opportunity at Chelsea. That's why I think it's going to be later in the window though, because Broja doesn't want to leave Chelsea right now. Irony, we're going back to a player whose first choice is to stay at Chelsea. Therefore, West Ham are quote unquote desperate in chasing him. It's ridiculous. But if Tuchel looks at Broja and says, I don't think you're going to be good enough and I want to use you to get Declan Rice, and Broja knows that he's not going to get regular first starting football, he isn't in the manager's plans, that's where I think West Ham have to try and capitalize on this. But where this all goes in a different direction is Broja comes in and looks brilliant in pre-season, is really impressing Tuchel, and Tuchel says, actually, I want this guy to lead the line for me. It changes that scenario somewhat. But equally, maybe they save money elsewhere. Maybe Chelsea go, well, we'll buy Raheem Sterling, but we're just going to add Broja to the front line. We think he's going to be good enough. And maybe they save 30, 40, 50 million on a player there. And essentially you offset that from what you were putting aside for Declan Rice. That's how the transfers work. It's you know, Ousmane Dembele is quote unquote free. So net spend is free. But because he's going to be on a free transfer, there's going to be a massive signing on fee, 10, 15, 20 million, and then huge wages because they kind of get compensated for it. You can save all that maybe and go for Declan Rice if Broja is good enough. Now, I know a lot of people say, how can you compare Dembele to Broja? But it's not about, again, it's a bit like the Hazard and Sterling situation. It isn't about pound for pound who the better footballer is. It's about effectiveness in the team. You know, and at the end of the day, if I had a player that was twice as skillful as Eden Hazard, but a player like Raheem Sterling was scoring and assisting more, you have to get the balance right because the goals and the assists are actually worth more than the step overs and the dribbles and how good things look. At the end of the day, like you need productivity in football because listen, we could all be entertained, but I wouldn't want to support an entertaining team that ain't winning. That's weird to me. Like at the end of the day, you're there to win. And it's not about not having either. It's about getting that balance right. So I think there's so much kind of going on in these deals at the minute, which is crazy. There was a question that a few people have said this. Ronaldo to Chelsea. Why?
I was gonna ask you something.
Go on.
Relate not completely to Ronaldo, but I mean like it kind of relates to it. And it's Neymar, Terry. I mean, Neymar, there's the news coming from LMC Sport. Basically, Neymar is now not completely against leaving PSG. I mean, there was rumors a week ago that PSG were trying to ship him off. Could Neymar be potentially someone that Chelsea look at? I mean, you have the Thomas Tuchel link. Thomas Tuchel has famously said that he's the most talented player he thinks, period. It looks like Todd Bowley looking for a big name to kind of kickstart his Chelsea era off. What do you think there's any validity in a potential Neymar to Chelsea transfer?
I think there could be. I think everyone should avoid Neymar like the plague, though.
Oh, really? We might disagree on this. Go ahead, though.
Ability-wise, outstanding. If he could make more money doing a different type of job, I think he'd go and do it. I feel like you've got a player that every February he's going back home. He's injured in February. I don't know. He gives me the impression that he doesn't quite have the appetite for how much he would cost you and per week to pay and everything. I don't know if he has the mentality of a Messi, of a Ronaldo, of a Lewandowski of what we see from Mbappe and Haaland. Like, I want to be the best footballer in the world. I think he's so good that he can cruise. The problem is, I don't know. It's one of them deals where I look at it and go, my own brain saying, don't say that, Terry. He's one of the best footballers in the world. But I almost feel like I think it'd end up disappointing Chelsea fans in the end.
I mean, listen, I'm not going to tell you how to think, right? At the end of the day, if that's your gut feeling, that's your feeling. For me, Neymar, the biggest question mark for him and why I would say most teams should be hesitant about making a deal is his availability. I mean, the statistic is that since he came to PSG, he's been fit for 46% of their league games. 46%. That's less than half of the games. And we were talking about the Pogba deal. Go ahead.
No, and just to interject on that, and I don't think he's injured for the vast majority of them. I think he decides not to play. I think he says he's injured, but really, I don't believe he's truly, truly injured all the time either.
I have no way of knowing that. So for me, I won't go there, to be honest. But let me play the politician here. But for me, I have no way of saying that. But I think, to be honest with you, his injury record, like especially like the last few years, it's been scary because when you look at the productivity aspect of it, Terry, he's actually his GA since he joined PSG is higher than the amount of games he's played, meaning he's scoring and assisting more goals and assists than he plays games, which is crazy. When he's on the pitch, Neymar is unplayable. The problem is, just like it was with Pogba, and Pogba, if any, has less activities, even less so you'd want to buy him. If a player is playing less than 50% of the games, are you willing to spend that much money on him? Because at the end of the day, availability is the best ability. No doubt about it. If a player is only playing 50% of the games, it doesn't matter how many goals he's scoring. You don't get him for the other 50%.
No, and I agree. And me and you might differ on the reasons why we think he isn't available. But in the cold, hard light of day, that availability isn't there. On the Ronaldo question, though, for me, it's a case of when you actually read the article, Ronaldo came up in conversation. It wasn't Chelsea meeting Mendes to try to buy Ronaldo. I don't think Chelsea actually have any interest in buying Ronaldo either, personally. But I also get where Ronaldo's coming from. And this is where Man United fans have got to wake up and smell the coffee and keep the anger towards the Glazers. This man's 37, turning 38. Probably his last season at the elite level of the game, as in one of the top 4 leagues. Maybe he'll go somewhere else. He at least wants to go. If we sign Anthony and Frenkie De Jong, we bring in Lissandro, another midfielder and another free transfer, and it's like, oh, it looks good. And if preseason's really exciting, the football looks good, Ronaldo's going to go into this season. He at least wants to score loads of goals and have a chance of winning a trophy or two. Like, he wants to do that. He doesn't want to start the season when our best signing is Ruben Neves. We haven't improved anywhere else. Of course, he's going to speak to his agent and say, listen, we need to keep our eyes out because we might need a swift exit. And I don't blame Ronaldo, because it could be the last season of his career at this level. So I've got no issue with what he's doing. And I think if we as football fans would have actually got behind Wayne Rooney, Man United fans, when Wayne Rooney started questioning the ambition of the club 10, 12 years ago, I don't think we'd be in this situation now. KC here says, English players are disrespected because the media is saying disgusting things like Benzema has reached Kane's level.
Don't go where I can't follow, KC. Don't go where I can't follow, KC.
But KC, you see the mistake you've made there? English players are being disrespected because of what a member of the journalist says. So, like, break that down, KC, right? So you're having a go at Rice because of something that Jamie O'Hara says. Wrong target, my brother. Wrong target. I saw one the other day. This made me die, bro. This made me die. And I didn't tweet the guy. It made me so... It was a Fungus fan. What he did was this, right? Gary Neville said Ivan Perisic to Spurs is good business. And it kind of got quote tweeted, and somebody went along the xenophobic line of or not the xenophobic line on this one. There's a different one that was xenophobic towards him. But they were like, Man United fans weren't saying this when Jose Mourinho wanted to sign him. If Jose Mourinho was like part of United royalty, you wouldn't have he would have been backed in who he wanted to buy. I'm like, but did Gary Neville say that Ivan Perisic was too old back in 2018? No. Then why are you having to go at Gary Neville's opinion? Yes, loads of Man United fans said Perisic was too old back in 2018. What's that got to do with Gary Neville saying it now? That's what people do all the time. It's like, if the Sun newspaper big up Declan Rice and slag off Raheem Sterling, you attacking Declan Rice is the most stupidest thing you could ever do. It's quite literally ridiculous. It doesn't improve anything for anybody. And I like you, Casey. You're a good guy. You call him. But just think about what you're doing there. You're taking out, you're disrespecting somebody on purpose, which, by the way, is the reason why I don't believe people think Declan Rice is that bad, because you are purposely disrespecting him because of what the media says about Benzema. Think about that. That's why nobody believes you when you say Declan Rice is overrated. You're just saying it because you're trying to create an equilibrium. It's proper weird to me, though, my guy. Proper weird to me. Ronaldo flirting, Mendes harassment, Pogba and Rio.
Do you understand that?
Yeah. Well, do you know what it comes down to again, though? And people don't want this conversation because it upsets them. But Ronaldo has done so much for Man United in his career. You get more leeway. You get more leeway for doing these things. It's like anything. How much credit do you have in the bank, my friend? You know, if Pogba would have won 2 or 3 Prems in a Champions League and then did the flirting he did, he would not have got the same level of frustration. He just wouldn't have done. Why did Rooney get it so bad back in 2011? Because the Glazeronomics really came into effect. You know, Ronaldo had left and Tevez had gone and Hargreaves' knees went and we weren't replacing them. We were buying Phil Joneses and Ashley Youngs and we were getting angry. And then when Rooney kind of called it out, it was like that, no, this is getting bad. So they took it out on the player. Like, That's all that comes down to me. I mean, it's too early, really, but
I can do it still.
top 6 predictions. What are you saying?
City, Liverpool, Spurs, Arsenal, Chelsea, United. But based on unless Chelsea now go and buy, I don't know, Mbappe, then things change. Okay, but the way things are looking right now,
based on the window so far, that's my top 6 as well. But like right now, if the season started tomorrow, City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Spurs, Chelsea, Man United. But you know, you fast forward a week, suddenly Sterling and Dembele are at Chelsea.
Yeah, things change 100%.
You know, they're buying midfielder, they go straight back to third for me. But it's such a hard one to do. Your predictions are going to change every week in the transfer window based on who you sign. Rice and Phillips are overrated, Terry. They get listen, if you don't think they're good enough for footballing reasons, that's not an issue. That isn't what I said. When people say I'm going after Rice because of how Benzema is treated by the media, that tells me you think Rice is quite good. You're just doing it deliberately because you're trying to create some weird equilibrium. And that's my point, Wes. If you think the players are overrated and you think they're overrated, it is what it is. Terry, no top club wants Ronaldo. And I told you that his agent tricked the media to use Man U to sign because he knew Man U are stupid. Well, Man City tried to sign him last year. That wasn't made up. I think Pep Guardiola confirmed it. So a year ago, Man City, yeah. He was the problem, weren't he, old Ronaldo, according to Lias.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In fairness, remember that game in the Champions League? I was like, take him off.
I remember that. And I actually told you at the time, I was like, no, you don't take Ronaldo off in these settings.
No, it's true. Well, we did that in the game away at Young Boys. They took him off, and then we ended up losing. And it was like, oh, yeah, that's real bad. I don't rate Rice because Verratti destroyed him.
You don't rate a lot of midfielders then, my friend. Verratti has claimed a few scalps in his career.
Well, this is the thing as well. It's like at the same time, you're obviously talking about the England game. You'll probably also say, Casey, that England's manager is inferior to that of Roberto Mancini, and the overall quality of England's team is less than the Italians. So therefore, it isn't a fair equation. This is why I want to see Rice at one of the big clubs, because then you'll get your... It's very hard to know. It's like Basuma going to Tottenham. We're really going to see how good he is going into this season when he's up against the big boys in a big team playing not proper football, but like when they're going head to head now. How many of those midfields can he dominate? You know, Roy Keane, I know he got older and more experienced, but when he moved from Nottingham Forest to Man United, he was in a better team. You saw an even better Roy Keane, if that makes sense. So there's lots going on there. But listen, viewers, thank you very, very much for tuning in and having your say today. Really, really appreciate it massively. Please hit the like and the subscribe button before you go. Liaz, absolute pleasure talking, my friend. But until next time, everybody, take care. Goodbye. God bless.